I'm watching the time. It's 5 o'clock, but we've got next on the agenda. The staff are here. They'd like to raise some, issues and have a discussion with the board regarding the recent anti-harassment / retaliation policy. Let me start this segment off again with hopefully take this as a kind reminder for everyone to please be as respectful and for everyone to just be as respectful and as courteous as you can be to each other. I understand that there are high emotions and that people feel very strongly on different issues. However, and I've had during the break, 2 different folks came up to me expressing concern over really some of the comments and some of the behavior that's going on off camera. I'm not going to get into the specifics, only to say this: let's please do our best.
Thomas Mengert.
To be respectful and courteous to the best of ourselves, if we can do that. So, staff, WSBA, I want to say this: welcome. Thank you for hanging out. We are 3 hours past the time, and everybody's looking at me and blaming me, and I'll take the fault for all of it. The point is that people came here to be heard, and the goal is to let people be heard. And sometimes that requires blowing up the agenda. If you have to blow up the agenda, so be it, so that people can actually have their voice heard. So let me start the discussion by saying how much we, and I specifically, appreciate you and all that you do in that very tall building in Seattle every day. How you give of yourselves and give to this organization. I've said it once, I'll say it again: you're the backbone of WSBA. And you do the heavy lifting that oftentimes people like me and the governors get to take credit for. So huge thank you for that, and we are all ears to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we get started, I'm just going to let the people that are sitting at the table that will be presenting today introduce themselves. My name is Paige Hardy. Again, I'm the Public Service Specialist here at the Washington State Bar Association. I'm a member of this state bar. I'm also the board member of multiple minority bar associations.
Galina Spasovska, Human Resources Project Lead at WSBA.
Thanks, welcome.
Hi, Colin Wrigley. I'm a communications specialist with the bar. Not a member, and I've been reminded that I'm an at-will employee, and also that my job may be unnecessary under the Supreme Court if they take over.
Okay. Thanks, Colin. Appreciate you being here. Are we going to go upstairs or not? No. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. And just to let you know that these were submitted as part of late materials in case you guys would like to follow along. Okay. First off, I wasn't planning on saying this, but thank you, Bill, for really kind of making sure we have an opportunity to be heard. That feels really important and valuable to staff members, I think, oftentimes. Not that the exec team doesn't do a great job, I think they do, but given the circumstances, we think it's important that this BOG hear from us and that the members of the public understand how we feel as employees who care about the mission. So last January, we came before you to identify some concerns we had about what was taking place at this organization. And kind of despite some of the hostility we faced in that meeting, we are coming to you again today to provide more with a request. What we are is requesting that you listen to our concerns and do so with putting your egos aside. There are plenty of staff members who were involved in this process who are not able to be here today. Again, we understand your concerns about how optics might look of having staff members here. There are a few of us who are able to be here because we formally submitted an agenda item and therefore are allowed to be here. There are people who are making up their time. There are people here who are taking vacation time because they feel that it's that important to address each and every one of you. So I hope you will respect that and value that. So I'm going to start off by reading this statement, and if you have any comments or questions, I please ask that you all hold them until we're done reading. Thank you. The mission of the Washington State Bar Association is clear: serve the public and the members of the bar, to ensure integrity of the legal profession, and to champion justice. As staff members dedicated to delivering on our mission, we call on the Board of Governors to take action to hold itself accountable and to the members, the public, and the integrity of the profession, and to champion justice. Governors have a duty of loyalty to this organization. Any indication that a governor intends to take legal action against the WSBA should immediately disqualify them from serving on this board. This board's conflict of interest policy is, in quotes, intended to protect the interests of the WSBA when it is contemplating entering into a transaction, arrangement, or other action that may benefit the private interest of an officer or governor of WSBA. Governors that elect to sue this entity or intimate such actions are no longer protecting the interests of this organization, but are acting in their own private interests. Threats of lawsuits, sending notices of tort claims, or the actual filing of lawsuits are indicative that a governor is no longer serving the organization, but has a financial and/or emotional investment adverse to the interests of this organization.
Yep. The mere appearance of a conflict of interest necessitates recusal of governors. Governors must demonstrate integrity and champion justice. As leaders of the legal profession, this governing body should challenge itself to go above and beyond the baseline of what the law requires and avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest. In this era of growing public mistrust in lawyers, this BOG must be principled. Per the bylaws of this entity, in quotes, an individual may be recused from executive session for conflict of interest or other reasons at the person's request or by a majority vote of the BOG. This must be extended to even the appearance of conflicts of interest to ensure that governors act with integrity. This board cannot expect fellow members of the bar to champion justice if members of its governing body refuse to do so themselves. At minimum, governors must vote to recuse conflicted parties from attending any future relevant executive sessions. Third-party intervention is the best practice for addressing complaints against board members. It is standard practice for the board chair to bring in an inside party to evaluate and make binding decisions regarding complaint against a current board member. A list of neutral and respected third parties should be created and then reinstated yearly.
If you're on the phone, please mute your phone.
As such, we request, number one, governors must immediately refrain from acting in their own self-interest and must commit to upholding the mission of the WSBA. Number two, BOG members must vote to recuse persons from executive session due to conflicts of interest. Number three, the policy should follow the recommendations laid out in the Washington Human Rights Commission's Model Sexual Harassment Policy and Best Practices, which is attached in the board materials, including but not limited to consistency, accountability, and effectiveness. Currently, the anti-harassment policies are not applied, quote, consistently and fairly to everyone, end quote. The policies are not effective because there are no policies or procedures for situations in which BOG members have a conflict, either because they are the subject of a complaint or a complainant. Therefore, BOG members must create a policy for third-party intervention if a BOG member is the subject or instigator of a complaint. Separation of the parties. Complainants should not have to continue to work with the subject of their complaint. Create a culture against harassment. Staff and volunteers should be encouraged and supported to raise and address concerns about the safety of the workplace. Collective action by employees is a commitment by staff to shape a more equitable and safe work environment.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. From the, I appreciate the comment. Anything from the second row?
To be really clear, we are asking that you create a anti-retaliation policy that has more teeth than the one you passed last month, and that actually includes some procedures for how you're going to handle it when a complaint is raised. I've read that policy over several times, looking for information on what you're supposed to do once a complaint is raised, and there's really nothing in there that says that, which is how you wound up with some interesting situations going on where people who maybe shouldn't have been a part of the decision-making maybe were allowed to be a part of that decision-making. So we're really asking you to look at these model policies that we attached and use them to help you create better, stronger anti-harassment, anti-retaliation policies, and procedures.
Thank you. Governors, questions regarding the model policies that have been attached or questions specific to the staff and the concerns that they've raised? I'm looking at governors. Alec.
I guess what I'd like to do is have this referred to the Personnel Committee for consideration. I think some of your points are well taken. And I say that also just as it relates to this day. One of the things I do know and I do feel and I do understand is that some of my colleagues feel like they were they were up against it, and I get that. I get that if I were the person
no names are available
who felt I was the subject of criticism or needed to do something, but therein is where the problem lies. Meaning, when I feel that way, I want to both defend my position and I would want my colleagues to stand behind me, which then is a problem. So I think we should send this to personnel and, let us sort through this.
All right, there's a suggestion that the templates or the sample policies that you've attached and the concerns that you've raised go to personnel. Additional comments or questions from the governor? PJ.
I second Alec's thought. I think it should go to personnel. I think that more work can be done, and I'm hopeful that you'll be allowed to participate in a discussion with the Personnel Committee about all of this. The thing that I'm really distressed about right now is the first comment that was made. That bothers the hell out of me. If somebody suggested to you that because you're here, you got to remember you're an at-will employee and things like that, that way crosses the line. And if that has occurred, I think you need to talk to your HR director, and if it involves one of us, it needs to be dealt with. That's just way over the line. That's disgusting. And if somebody does something to you, I hope we hear about it.
Board? Gene.
I just wanted to say that I can confirm that that statement was made. I heard it made. Not by a member of the Board of Governors.
All right. Robin, you had it.
So
Rob.
that's actually two comments in one. The person I think Gene is referring to made it, and then a different person made it during lunchtime who's actually running for this board.
Alec.
Yeah, I also just want to speak to you, but also to my colleagues, and that is, I think it is a good thing that you believe enough that you have a safe environment in which to come forward and talk to us. I know it's a push in any case, but there are some places where that would not happen at all. And that is to the credit of the management of WSBA and to the policies that we have put forth. And we always have to remember that you have to have a safe environment. In that context, and maybe we'll have to do a little bit more fact-finding, but I don't want it to be lost. I don't think it is often that you have come to us. Okay? And I don't think and I think that needs to be kept in mind, that this is not the notion of the staff getting out of control. I mean, this is more the notion.
no names are available.
The staff reached a level and felt they needed to speak out. And we need to protect that. And if we do our jobs well, I mean, there will still be rare occurrences where this would happen. And that's for the better. It's far worse, I believe, when that doesn't happen, because that then means, and I want my colleagues to really hear this, I mean, as a civil rights manager within organizations. Otherwise, you get the other surprise, which are the complaints that go to the outside agencies because the employees did not feel like they had a safe environment to raise their concerns. And I think that always needs to be kept in mind, because otherwise you really do get then those results where people say, I can't go forward within my organization. I can't talk to our managers. I can't talk to the policymakers about issues that are of concern. Then people do other things. And usually when those things happen, board members are saying, how did this happen? Why did this happen? So it's, even in a difficult time, a good thing to not forget that we have an organization that allows you to speak up and give input and give your views on what we should do.
John, hey John, is that door open there? Okay, it won't close. I've got a bad hearing problem, so if I hear something, it throws me off. I just want to add, I agree with a lot of what you said, but I don't think the staff is here because they feel safe. I think that I applaud you for coming in spite of the fact that you don't feel safe, and I don't want it. I don't think we ought to be hearing you say, we applaud you, you must be safe because you're here. I think you're here, and clarify that, please. I want to make sure I hear you right. You're here in spite of the fact that you don't feel safe, and you're trying to express that to this board. Did I hear that correct, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can just say it right.
Thanks.
If I were to define safety in the sense within this context, that I am here today and I'm not feeling afraid that there will be no retaliation, right. I disagree with that very respectfully, Governor Stevens, because I am not here because I believe that there will be no retaliation against me. I am here today because I believe in human rights, in doing the right thing, and speaking truth to power. And even if that means that I'm running against the risk to lose my job because of that.
Thank you. I appreciate that comment and the clarification. All right. Yes, Robin.
I tried. You got to hold it more. There we go. More aggressive.
There you go.
All right. Those of you who know me well know that I usually speak my mind pretty easily and not often with very much fear. My heart is pounding. It was in January too. I was less terrified that day than I am today. Today, I am terrified. And I want to make sure, Kalina kind of alluded to this, but I want to make it clear. It's really different to stand up here and ask you all to look at a better policy than it would be for me to tell somebody, anybody, if I felt like I had been sexually harassed. Seeing what went down with our colleague, seeing what has happened to some of to Paula and to some of the other directors, I am not sure that I think I would do it in the end because I believed in doing what's right no matter what. But I think it would be one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, and I've had to do some pretty damn hard things.
Thanks, Robin. Appreciate it. All right, Governors, additional comments or questions for the staff? Paul.
I would just like to say thank you all for appearing here today. Thank you for having the courage to speak your truth, speak about these concerns, and raise them to the board. Everyone around this table really loves the WSBA, including the staff, and we are going through challenging times. And as I discussed with one of your colleagues at our most recent break, I think we'll get through these challenges. We need to hear each other. We need to all be pulling in the same direction, or we do face the risk of things completely coming apart, which I don't think too many people around the table want to see happen. So thanks for coming. It's always good to see you.
I just want to make a quick comment. And I don't mean to be snide, but I thought we were going in a different direction. So I just want to make the note of that we would like to know what that direction is, because yes, it'd be great if we could all go together in the same direction, but what's been communicated to us is that it's a different one.
Governors, you have an answer for the staff. Alec.
Yeah, well, I think that's the work ahead of us. I mean, that's really, what we're going to have to sort out. And at least I would be one reminding that as we go along, we work against being so top down in doing that, so that we can actually hear all views and all points of view as we move forward. I hear another direction. I need all that teased out. We need to all figure out what that means. But that's also in this period of not self-imposed uncertainty, but the question that has been discussed with us for a long time in terms of, what's the future of the bar, and how is it going to be as a mandatory or voluntary bar. But I think I'd like to believe, and I guess one of the things that keeps me going is if I just go glass half empty, I'm never there, because I'm never looking at the hope for a better future. So I look at what we have and what we can build on. And while this has been difficult, I think that's one of the things that we need to have as a lesson. And so when I say going to personnel, I would certainly hope that we would have representatives from you giving us further comment as we go along, as opposed to getting this, doing some work, and then without checking back and saying, is this a part of where you want to go, not only you, but also talking to our members and the public, I think that's the way to get there. So.
Governors, thank you. Any more specifics? I know that Alec's trying to lay out a fuzzy roadmap there, because it's actually blurry, and I'm blinded. And I think staff deserves an answer on two things that I hear. One, what is this direction that you will all be hopefully pulling the oar on and moving toward? What is it? And two, what actions, board, are you going to do today, other than talk about maybe going to personnel, something specific and concrete that these folks can take away with them? They've come here and they're asking for that, and I'm not hearing. If I'm trying to put myself at that table and say I'd like to hear something more than fuzzy, blurry talk or thoughts and ideas about maybe we do this with personnel. Do we have anything more definitive to give them? That's my question. Governors.
Bill, this is Carla. May I, whenever there's an opening, I'd like to say something.
You've got an opening, Carla.
Okay, thank you. Well, I just wanted to let the staff know that in our executive committee meeting a couple weeks ago, some of us brought up the idea of trying to set up an all-day facilitated discussion with someone who's skilled in working with staff concerns, so that we might address all the issues that are of concern. That, I believe, has been put off to the May agenda, and I just thought that I would like to mention that in case people weren't aware, that even several weeks ago, and in fact even before that, several of us had been thinking that would be something of interest. I don't know if the staff would be interested in that. I did bring it up with Frances, and she said I should simply ask the staff because I wasn't sure, procedurally how something like that might even happen if the board wanted to do that. And I certainly don't want to set it up if the staff are not interested. And I do realize that the people that are here don't represent all these staff, so there may have to be another mechanism. But I just thought I would bring it up because I thought it was important with this level of concern that there be an open and transparent dialogue to really understand from everyone what their concerns are and what we might do. So I just would like to throw that out.
Okay. You threw that out there. Anything more definitive on the phone that can be given to the staff that are here today? And I mean definitive in action. Instead of not, I don't want to be demeaning, not just words, but action. Governors?
Well, Mr. President, that was a proposed action. I'm just asking the staff to consider and maybe through Frances let us know what they'd like to do. I'm proposing a very concrete action, which would be a facilitated meeting.
Okay. There's a concrete action. Yes. Robin.
This is Robin. My response to that, so Frances did bring that forward to us. I want you to know she did bring that forward to us. Obviously, we don't speak for all staff, and even within this group, some of us have some slightly different opinions about it, but I'm going to share mine. One, it feels like you want us to stop coming to public session and talking where everybody can hear this. You want to do it where you can keep it between you and us, and sweep it under the rug. That's what it feels like. I'm just giving you my feelings, okay? Two, now that there's an investigation being opened to the hostile work environment, as the letter from the Supreme Court from Friday told us, I think it's an inappropriate move at this point in time. Let's let that investigation happen where a lot of information can be shared. Was that not public knowledge?
That's public. Yeah.
Okay, but it wasn't inappropriate to have shared, right?
No.
Okay. I think I had a 3, but it's gone. Anybody else?
All right. Any other? Yes.
I think also my personal feeling on the meeting that Carlos proposed is that I had some feelings. It's just that, yes. And that, and I think this is something that I've seen the BOG do quite a bit in my limited experience with you all, is that you want us to rehash and re-traumatize ourselves over and over and over again to just paraphrase and re-say and repeat how we feel and how we've been harmed. And as lawyers, I would expect that you know how to listen and expect that you know how to gather the facts. And you all, I should be able to trust you all to either take this to personnel or do it yourselves and come up with the policy without us having to constantly re-say how we've been harmed, because that's traumatizing and that's not okay to do to people. And I've witnessed that several times, and I don't know if it's because you all don't receive training on why, or maybe you don't have personal experience being re-traumatized over and over again, but that simply is not okay, and that's what that meeting feels like.
That was my 3. Good
Thank
job.
you. Okay. Sue?
Great. Thank you again for letting me have a few minutes of your time today. Again, I'm Sue Strand. I've worked for the Bar Association for about 10 years in a full-time capacity. I'm a member, number 41102. I live in District 6. Judge Tollefson is my governor. I'm also on the board of trustees of the Kitsap County Bar. I'm a member of Washington Women Lawyers. So I'm not just staff. I'm a member as well. I don't think it's fair to characterize people here as just staff. We're all working for the betterment of the profession. And many of the staff at the WSBA are attorneys who've gone through the same training and education as all of you, some through the law clerk program and some through law school. I just want to reiterate a few things that have been said already. I know I'm not trying to rehash everything. But we are very concerned about the direction. There is no direction. We haven't heard the direction. You guys on the Board of Governors have been talking about this at least since January, probably before, and it seems very irresponsible to this organization, to the membership, to the public, to suddenly change direction without providing the direction. Where are we going? We don't know. Paula often says in some of her talks that every Board of Governors is a little bit different, and it's a really big ship, the Board of Governors, or the WSBA. And it's very hard to turn it on a dime. And as you know, governors who've been here a while, or been observing for a while, things happen slowly, but they also happen really fast. We heard today a little bit about the bill that's already passed the House. That's moving very quickly. We aren't really set up to respond as fast as we might be able to. And having a directional change without a roadmap, without GPS, it's really hard to figure out where we're going and what we're doing. So I think it's very concerning. I think Betsy said the same thing a little while ago. You heard from Brian Constantine from the Government Lawyers Bar this morning. We're all really concerned as members, where is this organization is going? How can we help get there if we don't know what we're doing? So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Sue. Any other questions? Yes. And from when I say from the staff, I mean the staff, all capitals. All right. Any other questions? None? Okay. Governors? Yes. Okay, hold 1 second, Colin. We're going to dial in. We're going to dial the phone.
Okay.
I think we dropped off there. Lost our line. Laura, are you waiting? Laura, yes, you may. And then John, were you waiting or just stretching?
Please enter your PIN.
Okay, so we'll let
After the tone,
our
please
comment
say your
here,
name, followed by the
Laura,
pound
and then
key.
John. Okay.
Your call has been placed in conference.
So we have Colin ready for comment, Laura, and then John. Go ahead, Colin.
Yeah, so I have less a question, more a comment or thought, if that's okay.
Yep.
So as far as a meeting with staff, I think it's already been expressed that the concern would be, just the overlapping concern is that would be out of the public session. And I think even today that's been a bit of an issue with several items. And we would like to keep this very much in the public and keep this as transparent as possible. Aside from that, the request is for long-term policies that will this isn't a bandage. This isn't a let's all get together and feel good and go, do like laser tag or something to have some team building. This is to protect every employee from now on and to shore up a gap that I think has been very clearly identified. And I think I'm actually stealing that terminology from the January meeting. In addition to that, I think another thing that has come up again is to recognize the conflict that everyone on the board has, which I think it has been mentioned by several members. So Governor Stevens had mentioned, I think, repeated, we are conflicted. Sorry, I was watching the meeting last night and taking some notes. And then Governor Knight said, I absolutely agree with the comments that when there is an allegation against the board as a whole has a conflict, and the board cannot take action on that issue. I think we're also, and I don't want to speak for everyone, so they can scream at me if I'm stepping out of turn, but to have something in place to remove that conflict, not for any one member, not for any one governor, but to recognize that everyone has a stake in this, and that the conflicts have been recognized, and they affect the perception of the process as well as just, I'll leave it there. Just it's having an effect, and we would like to remove that in some sort of hard policy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Laura and then John.
Thank you, Laura Bradley. Is this on? Okay. Access to Justice Board, although I'm speaking personally at this point in time. I don't want to speak for the staff, but as an objective observer, I just want to remind the Board of Governors of the power differential that's present between the governors and staff members. And so while it would be great if everybody could get together and talk this through and hash it out, I don't think it's realistic. And I think if that were to happen, it might cause more harm than good.
Thank you, Laura. John, do you have Inez, did you have a comment too?
Yeah, very brief.
Okay.
You know, I'm an employment attorney. I've been that way for a long time, over 10 years, 15 years, and I've also was in the labor movement prior to that, shop steward, union officer for about 30 years. The only thing that bothered, and I spoke in support of the staff previously on this, but only in a very narrow context. One of the things that I don't want to see happen is they mentioned that there's a conflict of interest if somebody wants to sue the board. And I don't care if it's a 17-1 vote. If a Board of Governors member is being stomped on because they're not following the rules and he chooses to enforce that, that isn't a conflict of interest. And if you take action against a Board of Governors, then that, for insisting on his right, then that's retaliation. So I can't agree that just because somebody wants to enforce his rights in a court of law, that somehow sets up a conflict of interest. The other thing is I spoke about 2 months ago, and I said, well, you know, you say that you can't take temporary action, and you've done it in the past. And you know, at the time I spoke that, I didn't know what the rules were. It's come to my attention now, you can't do that. I don't, but you see what I'm talking about. Here's one person that said, okay, you took this action against me on a 10-4 vote, and you were wrong. So I don't see, just because even a member of the Board of Governors, just because he has a large number of power. But on the other hand, another thing that I have to say in support of the staff, which deals with this situation, and I think this is what's bothering them, when you have an issue like this, you don't kick it down the road for 3 or 4 years to watch and see how the litigation turns out. As you've seen in the past, you have the power to do something immediately. And I don't know if the person is guilty, whether he's innocent. I don't know what the situation is. All I know is that there's 17 people out there filing a petition, and I read about it in the papers. When you get to that level, I would like to see this board take some kind of action within a reasonable amount of time so it just isn't kicked down the road. The people come to a personnel meeting, they voice their concerns. If it turns out that it's a legitimate complaint, then you take action. If it's another situation that they haven't proved their case, you make a vote on the record and you move on. There's no need to sit there and have an issue hang on for years and years and years. So, which I see too often in public bodies all the time. They just kick it down the road, and I think that's what they're feeling about. So at some point in time, there's got to be an end game where various people got to put up or shut up. And then you take a private investigation in closed section, and then you take a public vote as to what your vote was, just like you did here today. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Inez, you had a comment or a question?
My last comment of the day.
All right.
You know, I stood before you earlier today, and I made the comment that I thought it was the wrong venue for non-lawyer employees to be questioning the work of the governors, and that maybe they should first go to their staff meetings and management up through the executive director and then to come here. I also was the one that said these employees are at-will employees. And I want you to protect my right to speak, my free speech rights. They're at-will employees. That's just a fact. And I don't want to be discriminated against for saying that any more than I don't want these people to be discriminated against. So since I was the one who did make that at-will comment, I wanted to speak up in my behalf and ask that I not be discriminated against for stating that. Thank you.
Thanks, Inez. I don't think anybody knew who made the comment, just to clarify, but I appreciate you coming forward and making your statements very much. One final comment, staff, and then
thanks.
I've got to try to wrap this. Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you. I wanted to say that we did what Inez is asking. It's not like the directors, you all can confirm this, right, didn't know how we felt and weren't communicating that. My understanding is that was being communicated to you all and maybe not being believed, which is the other reason why we have felt the need to be here 2 meetings in a row. And then the other point I want to make is, sure, I think Inez has the right to say we're at-will employees, but someone running for a powerful position in terms of the BOG, that one felt like intimidation. Inez's comment didn't feel as much like intimidation to me, but the other one felt like we were being told that our jobs are at risk for speaking up today.
Thanks. And Chris, you had a comment. Okay.
I just wanted to say on behalf of personnel, we're happy to take these recommendations and suggestions from the staff and make revisions and come back with a policy. I obviously don't want to run interference with the investigation that the court has ordered take place. And I also don't want to re-traumatize anyone by making you come to personnel and present this, because I think you've done a great job of putting forth what your concerns are and what you would like us to address. So I think personnel can move on this, but I think we'll be careful because I don't want us to interfere with an ongoing investigation into a claim of a hostile work environment. And I would just like to say on behalf of District 10, I'm very sorry that the person running to replace me or a person running to replace me made you feel threatened. Elections have consequences, as we know, and I cannot assure you that the person who sits in this chair in October is not going to be the person who made that remark to you.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Can we wrap this up with and see if I want to look at governors and see. It would be great, I think, if we could give the staff some concrete to stand on. And if you could mute your, if you could just mute your phone.
Please mute your phone.
Someone please mute your phone.
Thanks, Brian. The judge has spoken. Okay, thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. Maybe, because I know we've got to meet with the court tomorrow and maybe hopefully get some guidance, but it would be nice if we could get from personnel maybe a response in writing of some things that we're thinking about that we could transmit to Francis to communicate to staff within the next couple of weeks. Would that be something, governors, that's acceptable in terms of timing and something you'd feel comfortable being able to do through personnel? Also, consider in light of the fact we're also meeting with the court tomorrow. Anybody say that is just a terrible idea and I don't want to do that? Not hearing anyone say that.
Bill, this is Carla.
Carla.
I do think we need to be thoughtful about the changes to the retaliation policy. I think one of the reasons that the staff maybe was unsatisfied with it was that it was fairly poorly done in January, and at that time I voiced my concerns that it was not very well written, and I believe we had a comment from someone in the audience that we needed to be careful to separate policy from process, but we all charged ahead anyway, and now we have another situation to address and deal with. So I'm in favor of updating and modifying the retaliation policy, but I think it needs to be thoughtfully done. I don't think it should be in a couple of weeks.
I think you're actually a couple of steps ahead of me, Carla. I was just suggesting personnel get together, discuss the issues raised, and try to get a letter back out to staff through Francis, just reaffirming our commitment on a few things, clarifying the direction, hopefully some direction this board's going to go. Does that clarify, Carla? We're not revamping anything. We're just trying to get...
in light of the comments that I've heard that the board is about the board, I really am not comfortable with personnel representing what the board has to say. If personnel wants to give a recommendation and a draft letter to the board, sure, that'd be fine. But I would not be comfortable with personnel.
Okay, well, I'm just going to let my comments stand as they are. Then we're not. That's where we are. All right. So, staff, we're going to end there. I wish I had more concrete for you to stand on. That is the best we're going to get today. I appreciate it, and I will say this to you: you are fully within your right, not just as employees, but as respected human beings, to come before this body in the way that you have, and that is simply trying to request a meeting and to come here professionally with respect and courtesy and to very thoughtfully address your concerns, and you are able to do that at any time as far as I am concerned, and as long as I am president. Your requests will always be met with a affirmative yes, we welcome you here. So I leave you with that thought. I thank you for coming, and I appreciate everything you've said, and on behalf of this Board of Governors, I reiterate our thanks to all of you, and if you will please bear with us as we work through some significant disruptions that we have. We will continue to try our very best, so thank you.